Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Coffee Break, and I am back with game number 2 between aciesPure and B. If you notice, we are actually already quite a little ways into the game here. That's because my mic was on mute for a while, and I did a very, very long update as to what's going on in the brackets. And then realized I was on mute and had to give the update while the game was in the intro phases. But that doesn't matter. We already know who these two players are. I will reintroduce them real quick here. We do have aciesPure spawning in the lower left-hand corner of Zelnaga Caverns. He is up 1-0 in this series versus B, who is our Red Terran player on the top right side. B had an extraordinarily good attack in the previous game, was able to take out one Nexus of aciesPure at his expansion, and almost took out the Nexus of his main as well, but not able to snipe any tech or any production buildings, and in the end, aciesPure army was still alive and was able to counterattack and just pretty much roll over what was remaining of B's army. But B did show that he has the capabilities of bringing this game, this series, to an ace match. We are currently once again at 1-0, but if B wins this game, we will go on to 1-1. The loser of this game will fall into the loser's bracket, so they will not be out, which gives us a chance to hopefully see these two players continue to duke it out. This is going to be an exciting matchup. We do have this SCV sitting down here waiting to go in and scout once again, waiting to see if an expansion is thrown down. In the meantime, we do have a gas steal from aciesPure. Not really necessary. I mean, it really doesn't do much anymore, especially if B is planning on doing some sort of fast expansion. In the last game, we did see B go a no-gas 3 command center build. Well, 2 command center, I guess. He got a 3rd command center very quickly to help him get an economy lead. But in this game, we are seeing 1 gas go down, a tech lab go down. So I assume we will be seeing some sort of stim concussive timing push coming out of B in the early game here to try to counter a fast expand of aciesPure. Will that indeed be going down? More likely than not. We are not quite at the time for aciesPure's fast expand. Yet, as soon as the Stalker finishes, really as soon as the pylon finishes is normally when he goes down and lays down that Nexus, and we do see him clicking all the way around there to get that down. This simulator being all pesky and the like. We do have stim pack on the way. The way you want to do your... Oh my goodness, we do have a 3rd rack, so yes, I indeed think that we will be seeing heavy 3 racks pressure. B saying the assimilator will not die. Marines obviously taking quite a while to kill buildings when there is only 2 of them and they don't have stim. But for those of you who don't know, the proper way to execute a 3 racks is to get, obviously, 3 racks, and you want 2 tech labs and a reactor. 1 tech lab will get the stim first. The stim first is very important because stim does take the longest. Then you want to get combat shields, which takes the 2nd longest. And after combat shields finishes, you get concussive shells. And that is the order you want to do that in. We do have double marine and a marauder moving out across the field, going to be taking this watchtower and maybe even pushing all the way down, see if they can't do a little bit of early game pressure. However, B is going to have to be careful as there is the sentry who has a force field ready, as well as a stalker ready to start picking away at units. And if aciesPure gets a lot of sentries, this is going to be an extremely difficult attack for B. However, without a lot of sentries, the Zealots can have a very tough time dealing with stutter step micro, and B has fairly decent stutter step micro as well. So, I mean, both these players really have a chance to take this at this point. We actually have a 3rd tech lab, so maybe a lot of marauders in this attack. Generally, you will see an extra, I mean, the 3rd racks will have a reactor just to get that extra production power, those extra marines out, so B could actually probably afford to lay down another barracks, but just needs to be careful not to get supply blocked. He does have a supply depot on the way. There are a lot of units coming out from B here. Stimpack just about to finish up here. He really can do whatever he wants at this point. aciesPure, though, is getting a fairly decent force of his own. 3 stalkers on the field already, 2 warp gates, and getting that robotics facility out. This is going to be kind of a vulnerable time for aciesPure. B really needs to exploit this timing window because there are only 2 production facilities online at the time. Really, in about 30 seconds or so will be when aciesPure is the most vulnerable, because that'll be right when this robotics facility is finishing, but before it really has time to really ramp anything up. there will be no additional gateways, so aciesPure will be stuck on 2 gate, and it looks like we are having quite a few SCVs pulled as well. Barracks are rallied down across the map to that watchtower. Just needs to make sure to pull his rallied units into the fray, and here comes the attack from B. I am totally excited for this. The SCVs do lead in the battle. The SCVs do all the damage from the Zealots and immediately kill those off. The Zealots are picked off as they are created. A couple of force fields do go down, but not in the best position ever. Now the sentries are falling, and 2 Stalkers have fallen as well. 1 Stalker does remain. That is all that is left. There is an Immortal being chrono boosted out of the robotics facility. However, that is not exactly the perfect unit, as there are only 3 Marauders in the composition. All the probes are now pulled for aciesPure. aciesPure taking a lot of casualties in this battle. This is exactly what B needed to do in this game. Needs to make sure to continue up on his macro, though, slipping a little bit right there, trying to kill off these Stalkers, killing off a lot of probes. In the meantime, the pros do get the scrounge on the Marauders and Marines, though, and I believe it's going to be cleaned up, but only barely. And here comes the second attack, stimming these units up. I don't agree with that. That is an unnecessary stim. But stimming these units up to get back up into the fray. 33 to 24 supply. A lot of workers lost. 21 workers lost in that previous battle. Now trying to take out this Nexus here. Instead, now going for the pylon. There are quite a few units here. Once again, for B, only 2 units over here for aciesPure. And Pure is just going to have to sack this expansion, I feel. And indeed, that is exactly what he's doing. B keeping up with his pressure, stimming his units once again. You really don't want to stim just to kill buildings. Just for you Terran players out there to know, needs to make sure to pull down these reinforcements once again, keep up on his macro, maybe drop, oh, there we go, perfect, dropping an expansion of his own. Now he's done the damage he needs to do, and he can fall back and try to take a macro lead. Look at that, completely even up the harvester count, killing once again so many workers, 21 workers killed in that combat, as well as this Nexus lost in that entire engagement. B has done so much damage now, and he knows that he cannot push up the ramp as there will be too many sentries. Oh, but he's coming back down. Careful, B, not to overextend yourself. You've done so much damage. You do not want to push in for the kill at this point in time, because aciesPure is sort of forced into a one-base strategy now. If B tries to push up this ramp, he's going to take very, very heavy losses due to the sentry splitting the army in half. There are a lot of Zealots here, however, so if B can get sight range up the ramp, he could do a little bit of damage in that right as well. Staying on 3 racks right now, building a 4th racks. I wonder if that one will have a reactor. Could probably pull a couple of guys off gas. I would really like to see actually double upgrades coming out of B now, because once again, he's taken quite the lead so far in this game. Oh my goodness, that was a very exciting start to this game, to game number 2 once again here in this winner's bracket. B needs to win this game, otherwise he will be knocked down into the loser's bracket, for those of you who are just now starting to tune in here. This command center is almost finished, so B is really going to be able to start ramping up his economy very shortly here, turning that into an orbital command the moment it finishes. B needs to make sure, once again, to keep up on making units, make sure not to get supply blocked, and really, Marines are going to be the unit of the day here, because if too many Immortals do get into this army, the Marauders will just get ripped apart. B being very, very meticulous, coming down, making sure an expansion is not laid down. Once again, needs to make sure not to try to charge up that ramp, though, with all these sentries there. However, a scan on top of the ramp could reveal all that he needs to see so that he can attack. The scan does go down, but a little bit too early. Now there is the stim up, and they're unable to do any sort of damage whatsoever. Just hitting that force field. Needs to fall back. Really, really needs to get some medevacs for this army. He's lost so much health with it. But actually, no factory yet right now. His expansion has now been established, not secured, however. There are no bunkers down in place. A very, very overstimmed army at this point, though. These Marines, some of these Marines have had 3 stims, most of them at least 2. The only full health units are the reinforcements and the 2 SCVs that are hanging out with the army. It looks like aciesPure is gearing up for an attack of its own. This is going to be a very precarious time for B. Once again, really could use to lay down a bunker or 2, as well as staying on top of his production, which he has done very well so far. And should probably pull his rally back fairly shortly here if he does realize that this attack is coming, which he does now, because that Marine just got blasted at the watchtower. B needs to fall back immediately, maybe take out this forward pylon just to be able to survive in this game, because once again, this is a lot of units, and there is a lot of force field potential from this army. Stemming up once again to try to take out these units. Does force field a lot of the units, force field the entire army in half. Now half of B's army has fallen, and only 1 Marauder and a couple, 1 Immortal and a few Zealots and Stalkers have fallen for aciesPure now. B losing a lot of his army in this engagement. Once again, a lot of these units overstimmed as well, needs to fall back, lay down a bunker immediately. B does have the defender's advantage, though, and thankfully does also have a reactor down to be able to try to get out of his units as quickly as possible. So more force fields do go down to try to stop those SCVs from getting in on the army and on the attack. But the SCVs do get into the battle. A lot of units shooting from the high ground. but all the units on the low ground have now fallen. All the Immortals have fallen. Well, actually, no, there's one Immortal left on the field with 1 health. One Stalker is very, very hurt. However, B just needs to fall back, maybe lift off this command center and try to cut his losses just like aciesPure did, because he is currently down in the supply and cannot really engage his army. He really needs to lift this off instead of mass repairing, but no, he's going to try to keep it on the ground there. Cannot engage all of these Zealots, so there are just too many there, and that force was actually working more in B's favor than it did aciesPure, as it stopped the Zealots from getting to B's army. This command center is unfortunately going to fall once again. It could have been lifted off to spare from the Zealots and Immortal Fire. Now B trying to reverse back up the ramp. Does have quite a few units back to defend though. There is the Observer on the high ground that's going to spot all the units for B. And it looks like aciesPure is going to be able to take out all the units on the high ground. Coming up to lay down yet another pylon. It looks like inside B's base. And now the last remaining defenders for B have fallen. Pulling all the SCVs off the line. This is going to be kind of a close battle. aciesPure is going to need to make sure to micro his units away so that he does not lose them to the surrounds by the SCVs. One Immortal does fall now. The Mules open combat too, but they cannot attack. Some more units still coming out, being rallied out for B. Marines is the quickest unit to make. However, I don't know if he's going to quite have enough to defend. And there's the GG from B in game number 2. So aciesPure is going to take this match 2-0. What a beautiful game out of both these players. That I have not seen that close of a game in such a long time. Both games perfectly executed. It was a pleasure to cast these two players, and I really hope to see them both do well in their upcoming games. aciesPure will advance in the winners bracket and will be playing the winner of Acespawn and Rafflestompt. In the meantime, B will fall to the losers bracket and play his close friend T in a TvT matchup. That'll be an explosive game, and I will be back with you guys, hopefully with that game fairly shortly after a little bit of a break.